A wise man told me to just start. He said, done is better than perfection. So we're going to start. For the last 2 months, you guys have heard me say, what's going on? It's your boy BJ, the DJ, and these are 5. But we're not going to do that today. Today, we're going to talk about the official podcast called The Rewrap, which those top 5s are going to be associated with. But we're going to talk about what to expect from this new podcast called The Rewrap. In the beginning, I had this idea for an old school rap radio station, because most of you know who are fans of rap music that there comes a point where a song becomes irrelevant, where an artist becomes irrelevant. So what I wanted to do was create an opportunity for those songs that I felt were timeless to live forever. And this was probably a good 5 or 6 years ago. This was pre-COVID. And so I had this idea, and I was scratching my head on how I could make this happen. Radio stations were still a big thing back then. It was really the only thing that was going on. You saw very few pods, and people were still reverting to their favorite radio station to get the music and the content that they enjoyed. So I'm sitting here with this idea, and I thought, man, it would be great if we could do an old school rap radio station. Well, where I live at in Springfield, Tennessee, there are very few radio stations close by. There's an AM station that would allot you time, space, but it was kind of like pulling teeth to really get involved into that avenue. So I'm still racking my brain. I dealt with licensing issues. I dealt with all these obstacles, per se, that prevented me from making that dream happen. So I kind of tucked that away in the back of my mind and kept moving forward with life. My DJ business was doing great, so I was kind of leaning on that. I was getting back into music a little bit, so I was kind of leaning on that, but I still, in the back of my mind, knew I had a great idea, but no way to really execute it. Let's fast forward just a little bit. A couple years ago, sitting down at my full-time job talking to a friend of mine who's an auditor, and he has a podcast where he was talking about ISO 9001 and some quality stuff. And he starts talking to me about my knowledge of music and my experience as a DJ and how I could tie all of this together into a podcast. And so I mentioned my idea to him about the old school rap radio station, and he thought it was genius. He suggested that we present it just like Casey Kasem used to do with his top 10 or top 100 list from a certain year. I said, man, that would be great. But radio is not really the thing now. Everyone's kind of getting into the podcast game. And then so he kind of pitched this idea to me. He said, why don't you do it like this? Why don't you take those top 10 songs and you discuss them in a podcast form? And you've already got the name. I was like, but I don't have a name. All I've got is my idea for a radio station. I don't really have a way to make this happen. He goes, but you do. You have your name. You'll call it The Rewrap. And like this light bulb went off, and I was like, man, that's the dopest name I've ever heard. This could possibly happen. So I started scratching the surface on making this dream that I had a few years back a reality in a different platform and make it relevant to what's going on today. Everybody's got a pod. Everybody's getting in the podcast game. More and more people are getting out of the music game and getting into the content creation game, which is great. I think it's awesome. It gives everyone a platform. Now, what are you going to do to set your pod aside from the rest? And I can't promise that mine's going to be any different than anyone else who does discussions and debates, album reviews, or whatever the case may be. But what I can do is promise you that I'm going to get better each time. Each pod will be better than the previous because that's the way I operate. I've been doing music since I was about 17 years old. I cut my first album at 18. I was a part of a group called Pimp Style Players from Springfield. Eventually became known as Full Blown, which is the label that I currently represent. Started doing some more music later on with Chad Arms and another group of friends. Shout out Brandon E, shout out Pudgy, shout out Chad Arms. And then around 2020, I ventured into the Christian rap world and did my first Christian rap album. And for the last 4 years, I've settled in this bubble of the Christian rap world. And I've been content with that. But as I'm getting older and I'm realizing that my time as a rapper is almost at its end, now I have to think about what's next. Now, 2012, my wife and I started a DJ business and started really getting busy around that 5th year doing weddings, and I'm averaging 50 to 60, sometimes 70 events a year. So that's keeping me busy. What I'd like to do, though, is still continue to pursue this content creation dream of mine. Rewind a few months ago, probably about 3 or 4 months to be exact, I was invited to be a part of a podcast that discusses movies and wrestling and pop culture things called Over the Top with Chad and Tony. So shout out those guys. Tony, aka Friday the 14th, Chatty Bobby, Chad Arms TV, love you brother, Chance Richardson. So glad I finally got to meet you guys and get to know y'all. They have given me a platform to come on and get comfortable being in front of the camera and behind the microphone. More so than what I have been in the past. The microphone's never really scared me, but being behind that camera or in front of that camera can sometimes be intimidating. But shout out to those guys because they've given me a platform and an avenue to come on and just chop it up. It feels like family. It feels comfortable. It's fun. It's just like sitting down and having a conversation with your people. And now I want to take that, a piece of that, an element of that, and bring it to this world right here. The rewrap will consist of 3 major parts. It will be the main podcast, which will not just be me talking every week. I will bring on guests. I will have friends involved in this. I've already got a few lined up already. And then we'll also continue to do the shorts, the top 5s, different areas, debating topics, things of that nature. And there'll be another side of this, and that's called the B side. And what that's going to do is that's going to be me asking questions to key people who may be on the pod, who may not be on the pod, but it just brings a different dynamic to the pod. I think that will add something different. I'm really excited about that because I want it to be more than just a pod. I want there to be different avenues and different content for people to really key in on. The visual will be available on the YouTube channel, so if you have not, please make sure you subscribe to that. It's at BJ Suter, that's S-U-T-E-R, no I, 1 T. That's at BJ Suter, S-U-T-E-R. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we're going to try to put this thing on all the platforms that will allow me to put it on. Again, this is new. And this isn't officially how I wanted to launch this thing. I kind of wanted the backdrop to be really dope and super cool, but you know, still toying with that. So as we continue on this path and this avenue, we'll continue to make those tweaks and those adjustments and make this thing better than what it can be. I'm excited about it. This is something that I feel like is going to be beneficial, not just to myself, but to the industry as well. I've already got eyes on it. We've had several artists that I've tagged in these short videos already repost content, already hit me in the DM, telling me they appreciate me showing them love. Whatever the topic was, it could have been top 5 New York rappers or whatever, but people sliding in the DMs talking about how they're happy that I'm showing them love and appreciating that. So I know eyes are on it and people are aware that it's coming. I just want to make sure that it may not be launched perfectly, but it's going to get launched. And here we are. We're going to call this episode 0 in the beginning. The rewrap, it's coming. First official will be January 1st. Again, this is episode 0. This is just the beginning. I want you guys to be excited about this. If you have topics and ideas you want me to discuss, guests you'd like for me to bring on, drop it in the comments section. I'll reach out and see what we can make happen. Here I am. It's BJ the DJ, the rewrap. It's coming January 1st. I'm out.